Hey, what's up, everyone? I'm Jem, and if you ever tried selling something and caught yourself thinking, man, I sound like every other pushy salesperson, don't worry, you're not alone. We've all been there. You're trying to explain your offer, but it feels stiff, maybe even a bit salesy. You want to connect, not convince. But it's hard when every sales tactic you've seen feels like manipulation in disguise. Here's the truth: persuasion doesn't have to feel fake or forced. When you actually understand why people say yes, what makes them trust, decide, and take action, it stops being a sales technique and starts feeling like a real conversation. So, in this video, I'm breaking down 5 ethical persuasion approaches based on actual psychology. And under each one, I'll give you 3 practical steps you can use right away, whether you're closing deals, writing emails, or even just trying to get someone to see your point of view. All right. Here's what we're diving into today: the empathy mirror, how to connect emotionally; the clarity principle, how to make your message feel trustworthy; the social proof loop, how to use proof that builds belief, not bragging; the choice ease effect, how to make saying yes feel effortless; the story activation, how to use stories that make people care. And real quick, if you're a business owner who's tired of chasing leads, or if you want real qualified prospects delivered straight to your inbox in CRM without running ads or cold calling all day, that's literally what I do. I help business owners across the US and worldwide get consistent, verified leads, no spam, no wasted spend, no guesswork, just real conversations that turn into paying customers. All right, let's jump into this. Let me get the slides here. All right. The first pillar of ethical persuasion is empathy, the ability to genuinely understand what your prospect is feeling and thinking. Because here's the thing: people don't buy when they understand you, they buy when they feel understood by you. Empathy builds trust, and trust, more than any clever script or limited time offer, is what drives action. Here's how to do it in 3 simple steps. Before you talk about what you do or how you can help, slow down and listen. Ask open ended questions that uncover what's really going on. Like, what's been the biggest challenge for you this month? What's something you've tried that didn't work the way you hoped? When people feel like you're curious about them, not just about closing a sale, they start to open up. And once they do, they'll hand you the exact words and emotions you need to build your message around. Step 2 here is reflect their feelings back to them. This is where mirroring psychology comes in. When someone tells you about their frustration, don't immediately jump into how you can fix it. Instead, reflect it back. Say something like, yeah, totally, you're not the only one. A lot of business owners feel the exact same frustration before they find a consistent system that actually delivers. That line does 2 things at once. It validates their emotion, it shows them they're not alone, and there's a path forward. This reflection creates psychological mirroring. It makes people feel seen and understood, which, biologically speaking, lowers their guard and increases receptiveness. When you present your offer, use their language, not industry jargon. If they say, I want predictable clients, don't say, we optimize your customer acquisition channels for higher LTV. Instead, say, I'll help you get predictable clients every single month. You're literally echoing their phrasing. That's what's called verbal mirroring. It triggers a sense of familiarity and trust because it sounds like you're already aligned. Let's go through a detailed example here. Let's make this real. Imagine you're talking to Jake, a roofing company owner from Dallas. He says we've spent thousands on leads, but half of them don't even answer. Now, most salespeople would jump in with something like this: oh yeah, we have a great lead system that guarantees 50% response rates. That sounds robotic, and Jake has probably heard that 10 times this month. Instead, you say, yeah, I hear from a lot of roofing guys, it's frustrating paying for leads that ghost you. Alright, let's rephrase that. Alright, perfect. Most of my roofing clients felt the same way until we helped them build a system that brings in real homeowners who actually pick up the phone. See the difference? You didn't pitch, you aligned. Jake makes you feel like you get it. He feels like you get it. You walked in his shoes, you understand his pain, and you have empathy for what he's been going through. That's the single shift. That single shift from selling to understanding is what separates top closers from average ones. You're not forcing a yes, you're creating a connection that makes yes feel natural. Now, now that you've built emotional trust, the next key is to make your message feel clear and safe, because once someone trust your intention, the next question in their mind is, can I trust what you're saying? That's where the clarity principle comes in. Let's talk about that. So this is cognitive ease. You've probably heard the phrase, if you confuse them, you lose them. Well, that's not just a catchy sales code, it's backed by neuroscience. Here's what happens in the brain. When your message is simple and clear, your prospect's brain literally relaxes. And when the brain relaxes, it starts associating that feeling of ease with trust. That's called cognitive ease, a psychological state where clarity feels safe and safety feels like the right decision. So think about it. The opposite of that is confusion. Confusion triggers cognitive strain. The brain has to work harder, which unconsciously tells the person something's off here. I'm not sure about this. So if you ever explained your offer and someone says, let me think about it, chances are they didn't actually need time. They needed clarity. Here's how to apply the clarity principle in 3 steps. Cut the jargon. The quickest way to lose the sale? Sound like you're trying too hard to sound smart. Words like synergy, solutions, scalable infrastructure, AI powered automation might impress your peers, but they confuse your prospects. People don't buy fancy terms, they buy understanding. So instead of saying something vague like, we provide AI powered automation to optimize business processes, say this: we help you save 5 hours a day by cutting out repetitive admin work. Boom. Instantly, that line goes from corporate speak to conversational clarity. They don't have to decode what you mean, they get it right away. Here's a quick rule of thumb. If a 10-year-old couldn't explain what you offer after hearing it once, it's too complicated. Now, you also got to use structure. Our brains are wired for structure. When you give information in a random order, the brain struggles to find meaning. But when you follow a clear sequence, people naturally stay with you. Here's the simple structure that works every single time: problem, solution, benefit. Problem: describe what's frustrating them. Solution: show what fixes it. Benefit: paint the end result. For example, instead of saying, we're a full service marketing firm offering end to end digital solutions, you could say, most small business owners struggle to get consistent customers online. We help them launch ads that actually convert so they can grow without wasting ad spend. That's it. You defined the problem, presented the fix, and painted the benefit, all in one smooth flow. That order feels natural because it mirrors how the human brain makes sense of stories and decisions. You also got to show visuals or examples. We're visual creatures. In fact, cognitive psychology studies show that people remember visuals 6 times longer than plain text. So don't just tell people what results you get, just show them. If you're talking about leads, display a dashboard screenshot. If you're talking about growth, show a before and after chart. If you're talking about transformations, share an image, a testimonial, or even a Loom video walking through the result. Because visuals make your words real. They reduce skepticism and increase trust because the brain goes, I can see it. It must be true. Let's bring this to life. Say you're helping a local med spa in Miami. Their website headline currently says, Innovative Aesthetic Solutions for Holistic Wellness. Now, it sounds fancy, right? But here's the problem. It doesn't mean anything to the average person. No one wakes up thinking, I need innovative aesthetic solutions today. So you step in, help them reframe it to get smoother, glowing skin in 30 minutes with zero downtime. That single rewrite does 3 things. It tells me what I'll get: smoother, glowing skin. It tells me how fast: in 30 minutes. It tells me why it's easy: zero downtime. Now the message is instantly clear. I know exactly what the offer is, how long it takes, and why I'd want it. Then, right below the headline, you add a simple before and after photo, a 3-step process graphic that says book your free consultation, get your custom treatment, leave feeling confident the same day. Now that's clarity. It's visual, emotional, and friction free. No confusion, no buzzwords, just an easy to understand promise. When people land on that page, their brain relaxes. They think, I get this. And that sense of understanding turns into trust. Because people don't buy because you're the smartest, they buy because you're the clearest. Now that your message feels clear and trustworthy, the next step is to validate it. You've told them what you do, now you need to prove it works. That's where the next principle comes in. The social proof loop. It's all about using real world validation, the kind that builds belief without sounding like bragging. Ah, let's be real. Humans are followers by nature. We're wired to look for signs of what's safe, trusted, and already working. That's why when you walk past 2 restaurants, one packed with people and one completely empty, you don't even need to check the menu. Your brain goes, that one looks popular, must be good. That's social proof in action. It's not manipulation, it's how we survive. For thousands of years, we relied on others' behavior to decide what's safe to eat, where to go, or who to trust. In sales and marketing, it works the same way. When people see others, like them succeeding with your product or service, their brain automatically says, okay, this feels familiar. If it worked for them, it'll probably work for me. That's the social proof loop. You create familiarity, which builds trust, which leads to the belief, produce a belief, and belief creates conversion. Here's how to use it ethically and powerfully. All right, you have to choose a relatable proof. Not all proof is equal. If your audience can't see themselves in your success stories, it won't land. For example, if you're talking to a small HVAC business owner in Texas and the only testimony you show is from a huge e-commerce brand doing 10 million a year, they'll think, "Yeah, but that's not me. My business is nothing like that." So, you always want to pick relatable proof. Stories, screenshots, and testimonies from people in the same world as your prospect. If you're pitching an HVAC owner, show another HVAC owner's success story. If you're pitching a med spa, show another med spa. If you're selling SaaS tools to startups, show a founder testimonial from another startup. That similarity creates belief. It's like holding up a mirror that says, see, someone just like you did this, and look what happened. Psychologically, it's called identity based validation. People trust outcomes they can imagine themselves achieving. You also have to be specific and not vague. Here's where most people go wrong. They use generic success claims. Phrases like, we helped them increase sales, we grew their revenue, we boosted conversions. These sound okay, but they don't hit emotionally because they're not concrete. Specificity is what turns skepticism into belief. So instead of saying we helped them get more leads, say we helped a Dallas HVAC owner go from 10 to 14 book jobs a week with the same ad spend. Now that feels real. It's measurable, visual, and believable. The brain loves numbers and timelines. They're mental anchors. They tell people this isn't hype, this actually happened. The clearer the data, the higher the trust. You also have to make it real and verifiable. Social proof only works if it feels authentic. That means showing small natural cues that tell your prospect this isn't staged, it's real. Add names, add locations, add time frames. Example, in just 30 days, Joe from Phoenix Roofing Pros, after 2 weeks of follow optimization using the same $1,500 monthly ad budget. These details make it tangible. And if you can, show it visually. A short loom clip of your client's results dashboard, a blurred screenshot of their inbox showing new leads, or even a selfie video testimonial. Those visuals hit way harder than a paragraph of text. You don't need Hollywood production. Real is better than polished. People can smell authenticity. When your proof feels human, not overly produced, it builds what's called familiar validation, the sense that this person is like me, this result is real, and I can trust this. Let's go through a real scenario here. If you're helping a roofing business in Phoenix named Joe from Phoenix, okay, let me take that again. You're helping a roofing business in Phoenix named Joe from Phoenix Roofing Pros. When Joe came to you, he said, "We're getting 3 to 4 leads a week, but most of them just price shop or never pick up." Instead of overhauling his whole ad budget, you focused on lead quality and follow-up. You built a better filtering process, cutting out tire kickers, and helped him set up a smarter automation system that followed up with warm leads fast. Fast forward to 30 days later, Joe's now booking 9 to 10 qualified roofing jobs a week with the same ad spend. You show a quick clip of his Google Calendar filling up with confirmed appointments, then a quick testimonial, short and quick testimonial video where Joe says something like, "We didn't increase our ad budget. We just stopped wasting time on bad leads. And now I've got more actual jobs than I can handle." It's short, specific, and believable. That story does all the selling for you. Because Joe isn't just a testimonial, he's a mirror for every other roofing business watching your video thinking, that's literally my situation right now. That's the power of the social loop. It builds trust by showing familiar success in a real way. Now that people trust your results, the next step is to make saying yes feel effortless. Because once they believe you can help them, what stops them isn't doubt anymore. It's decision fatigue. So next, let's talk about how to design your offer and choices in a way that feels easy, natural, and low pressure. That's where the choice ease effect comes in. Here's a fun one, and it's one of my favorite studies about human behavior. Researchers at Columbia University once set up a Jam tasting booth at a grocery store. When shoppers were offered 24 different jam flavors, guess how many actually bought? Only 3%. But when they reduced the options to just 6 flavors, something crazy happened. 30% of people bought. That's a 10x increase simply by removing options. Wild, right? That's the power of choice simplicity. When people have fewer decisions to make, they take more action. And when they have too many, their brain locks up. It's called decision fatigue, and it's the silent killer of conversions. Because at the end of the day, your job is as a persuader, whether you're selling a service, running a funnel, or just writing an email, is to make saying yes feel effortless. Here's how to do that using the choice ease effect. The number one rule of persuasion design is don't make them think, make them choose. If your page or your email or your call ends with 5 different CTAs like book a demo, download our guide, follow us on Instagram, or schedule a strategy call, that's not clarity, that's chaos. Because every time you add a new choice, you add a question in their head. Which one should I pick? Do I have time for this? Maybe I'll come back later. And we both know that I'll come back later really means you've lost them. So you want to give one clear next step. Example, book a 10-minute call to see if it fits your business. That's simple, it's clear. It feels lightweight. You've turned what could feel like a big decision into a small, doable action. And here's the cool part. Once people take that first step, they're way more likely to take the next one. That's called the commitment bias. Once they say yes once, they want to stay consistent with that decision. Step 2, show what most people do. Now, this one taps into something called social default bias because our brains are lazy. They love shortcuts. When we're unsure what to do, we default to what most people like us are doing. So when we say something like, most Miami business owners start with a quick audit call, it's free and helps you see if it makes sense. You're subtly saying you're not doing this alone. This is what everyone else in your situation does first. That's comforting, it removes risks, it adds social validation without sounding pushy. You're not saying you should book a call, you're saying this is what people like you typically do. And that framing feels safe. It gives their brain permission to move forward. Now you also have to remove friction. Let's talk about what stops people from clicking, which is pressure. If your call to action sounds like a commitment trap, sign up now, enter your card, lock in your spot, it instantly raises resistance. Instead, you want to lower the stakes and make the process feel autonomous. Example, no credit card required, no commitment. You can cancel anytime. And even if you don't move forward, I'll send you free insights from your audit. See what that does? It removes pressure and adds trust because now the prospect feels in control, not cornered. They're thinking, okay, there's no risk, I'll just check it out. That sense of freedom actually makes them more likely to say yes. This is what psychologists call autonomy reinforcement. When people feel like the decision is theirs, they're far more open to persuasion. Let's bring this down to the real world. Okay, you're helping a local gym in Austin that's struggling to get new signups. Their website currently has 3 call to actions: book a trial, join our newsletter, see pricing. All fine options, but to a new visitor, it's confusing. They're not sure where to start, so instead of taking action, they just leave. Now, here's what you need to do. You simplify it to one clear, low pressure step. Try 3 classes for free, no card required. Right below that, you add a subtitle line that says, most new members start here. Then you make that button bright, centered, and hard to miss. That's it. One message, one action, one direction. And the results? Within a week, signups go up by 38%. Why? Because people didn't have to think. The next step was obvious, easy, and friction free. You turn decision fatigue into decision flow. That's the choice ease effect. And that's what it's all about. Guiding them easily, not forcing them into anything. You're not trying to manipulate people into saying yes. You're just removing the barriers that make saying yes hard. Now, once people feel safe and understood and confident in taking that next step, there's one final lever that seals the deal, and that one makes your message stick emotionally. It's what turns feelings into logic and action. And that's where the next principle comes in, which is the story activation. It's all about using the power of stories, not as fluff, but as psychological triggers that make people care, remember, and say yes. Probably heard this 1,000 times. Facts tell, but stories sell. And honestly, it's true. It's not just marketing fluff, it's neuroscience. When you share facts, you're only lighting up the language part of your listener's brain. But when you tell a story, something amazing happens. Multiple areas start firing at once. Emotion, empathy, memory, imagination. In short, their brain doesn't just hear what you're saying, it feels it. That's why a single relatable story will always outperform 100 bullet points. So if you want your message to stick, your pitch to flow, and your audience to care, you gotta learn how to use stories the right way. Here's how to use the story activation method ethically and effectively. Alright, follow the hero's shortcut. Most people overcomplicate storytelling and they think it needs to be cinematic or emotional or long winded. But in persuasion, all you need is a mini story that follows this simple 3 step format: problem, turning point, result, or transformation. That's it. Short, visual, human. For example, Mark runs a plumbing business in Denver. He was losing half his leads to missed calls. We set up a fast response system. Now he books 3 more jobs a week. You see how simple that was? No dramatic music, no fluff, but your brain instantly pictures it. You see Mark stressed, missing calls, then relieved, booking more jobs. That's story based persuasion in its purest form. You don't need to be Shakespeare. You just need to paint a before and after picture in your prospect's mind. You have to keep it real. Here's where most salespeople ruin it. They overhype, they exaggerate, they turn a real story into an infomercial. That kills trust because the moment someone feels you're trying to make something sound better than it was, their brain hits the brakes. So instead, stay authentic, be specific, honest, and a little raw. Say things like, at first, he wasn't sure this would work, or we tested a few ideas that didn't land, but once we found the right message, it clicked. That kind of honesty builds credibility. It triggers what's known as trust dopamine. That feel good hit when people when they sense you're being real. They don't just believe your story, they believe you. Now you also have to end with a transformation. Every good story ends with a feeling, not just a number. You want to help people imagine what their life looks and feels after working with you. Because when people imagine success, they start to pre-experience it emotionally, and the brain doesn't actually know the difference between imagination and reality. So instead of just saying we've helped them get more leads, say you're tired of chasing random leads. Imagine waking up to 3 new book calls every single week, all from people who are actually ready to buy. That's transformation. It's vivid, it's emotional, and lets your prospect picture themselves in the success story, not as a spectator, but as the hero. So let's make this real. You're talking to a marketing agency owner in Florida who's skeptical about outsourcing lead generation. They've been burned before. Someone promised them warm leads, but all they got were tire kickers. They're tired, cautious, maybe even a little defensive. So instead of hitting them with data or guarantees, you tell them a story. I worked with a guy named Chris. He runs a small digital marketing agency in Tampa. When we first talked, he was exhausted. He was spending hours every day doing cold outreach, sending messages, following up, and getting ghosted. He told me, Jem, I feel like I'm working full time just chasing people who don't even want to talk to me. So we built him a predictable lead system that delivers around 20 qualified prospects every week. People who actually need marketing help. Within a month, his mornings completely changed. Instead of hunting, he's now hopping on calls with warm leads who already know what he offers. He's calmer, growing faster, and the best part, his weekends are finally his again. That's not just a testimonial, that's a transformation story. It has emotion, pain, change, and relief. And as your prospect listens, their brain starts quietly whispering, that sounds like me. That's exactly what I want. That's when you know the story did its job. All right, let's wrap this up with a quick recap. Tongue twister right here. Here's how you persuade ethically and still close deals that actually feel good on both sides. Use empathy to connect. See the world through their eyes before you sell. Be clear, not clever. If they have to think too hard, they'll walk away. Show real proof. Familiar stories create believable results. Make choices easy. Less pressure, fewer options, more yeses. Tell stories that make people care because emotions drive decisions, not logic. That's the difference between sounding salesy and sounding human. And hey, if you're a business owner, that's a bad transition from my end, but let me rephrase that. If you're a business owner who doesn't want to spend hours figuring all this out, That's where I come in. I specialize in helping businesses get qualified, ready to convert leads without wasting money on ads or chasing cold prospects. Whether you're a roofer, contractor, med spa, a local service provider, or a B2B business owner, I'll bring the leads straight to your inbox, CRM, fully verified and ready to close. So if you want consistent leads and peace of mind knowing your pipeline's always full, click the link below. Book a quick fit call and let's see how I can help you grow without sounding salesy. And if this video helped you out, do me a quick favor. Hit like, drop a comment, and share it with someone who hates sounding pushy but still wants to grow. I'm Jem. Thanks for hanging out with me. And now go tell stories that make people feel something. And I'll see you in the next one.